There is a liquid that costs $1 per gallon, kills every weed on contact, and prevents regrowth for an entire season. It works on driveways, between pavers, along fence lines, on gravel paths, anywhere you want bare ground and nothing else. The chemical industry has known about this solution for over a century, but they buried it under billions of dollars of advertising for products that cost $15 per bottle and have paid out $11 billion in cancer lawsuits. Today, you will discover exactly what this liquid is, how to make it in 5 minutes, and why it works better than glyphosate herbicides that dominate store shelves. You will learn the precise formula that kills not just the leaves, but the roots, preventing regrowth without poisoning the soil or your groundwater. And by the end, you will understand why Roundup and its competitors spent fortunes convincing you that killing weeds requires complex chemistry, when the most effective solution has been in your kitchen the entire time. But to see why this works, and why it was suppressed, you need to hear the complete story. Because this is not just about weeds. This is about an industry built on manufactured dependence. Walk outside right now and look at your driveway. The cracks between concrete slabs. The edges where asphalt meets lawn. The spaces between paving stones on your patio. What grows there? Weeds. Relentless, resilient weeds that push through gaps you did not even know existed. Crabgrass, dandelions, plantain, purslane. They sprout, they spread. They mock your efforts to maintain order. So you do what everyone does. You go to the hardware store. You buy a bottle of Roundup or a generic glyphosate product. You spray. The weeds die for a few weeks. Then they return. You spray again. The cycle repeats. Over a season, you spend $50 to $100 on herbicide. Over a decade, $1,000 or more. And that is just the financial cost. The health cost is harder to quantify, but potentially catastrophic. Glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, is a probable human carcinogen according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Bayer, the company that now owns Monsanto, which created Roundup, has paid over $11 billion to settle lawsuits from people who developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using the product. $11 billion. That is not a fringe conspiracy. That is legal liability. Courts found sufficient evidence that glyphosate exposure causes cancer to award damages in the billions. And yet, the product is still on shelves, still advertised, still recommended by garden centers as if it is a safe, normal solution. This is not an accident. This is a business model. Create a product people think they need. Make it cheap enough that they keep buying it. Bury the risks under marketing. Pay out settlements when forced. Continue selling. But here is what they do not want you to know. You do not need glyphosate. You do not need any synthetic herbicide. You need 3 things you already own. Boiling water, salt, vinegar. That is it. No protective gear, no warning labels, no cancer risk. Just basic household items combined in a specific way that kills weeds more effectively than chemicals designed in a lab. The formula is simple, but the science behind it is precise. Each component attacks the plant through a different mechanism. Together, they create a triple kill system that destroys weeds at every level, from cellular structure to root viability to soil chemistry. Let me explain how each part works. Boiling water is the base. Water at 212 degrees Fahrenheit is lethal to plant cells. It ruptures cell membranes. It denatures proteins. It causes immediate, irreversible damage. When you pour boiling water on a weed, the effect is instant. The leaves wilt. The stem collapses. But more importantly, the heat penetrates into the soil. Not deep, but deep enough. The top 2 to 3 inches of soil, where most weed roots concentrate, absorbs the heat. Those roots cook. They die. This is mechanical destruction. There is no chemical residue, no buildup in soil, just thermal energy doing what thermal energy does, killing living tissue. Salt is the second component. Not just any salt. Coarse salt, rock salt, the kind used for water softeners or ice melt. Cheap, abundant. When dissolved in boiling water, salt does 2 things. First, it increases the boiling point of water slightly, making it hotter. Second, and more importantly, it creates a hostile environment for plant life. Salt draws moisture out of plant cells through osmosis. It desiccates tissue. It prevents regrowth by making the soil temporarily inhospitable. This is critical. Boiling water alone kills what is there now. But weeds will resprout from root fragments or from seeds in the soil. Salt prevents this. It creates a sterile zone where nothing grows for weeks or months, depending on concentration and rainfall. Eventually, salt leaches away or dilutes. But by then, the immediate weed problem is solved. Vinegar is the third component. Acetic acid. The kind you buy in gallon jugs for $5. Not the fancy balsamic. Not apple cider vinegar. Plain, white distilled vinegar. The acetic acid in vinegar is a contact herbicide. It burns plant tissue on contact. It breaks down the waxy coating on leaves that normally protects them from moisture loss. The leaves dry out and die. But vinegar also lowers the pH of the solution. Acidic conditions stress plants. Most weeds prefer neutral to slightly alkaline soil. A sudden pH drop shocks them. Combined with the heat and the salt, the vinegar ensures total destruction. Nothing survives this triple assault. The exact formula is this: 1 gallon of water brought to a rolling boil. 1 cup of coarse salt stirred in until mostly dissolved. 1 cup of vinegar added after you remove the pot from heat. Stir. Pour immediately while still scalding hot. Do not let it cool. Heat is half the weapon. Apply it directly to weeds. Drench the leaves. Drench the soil around the base. Use a cheap watering can or a heat-resistant pitcher. Pour slowly and deliberately. You are not spraying a mist. You are pouring death. The weeds will wilt within minutes. Within hours, they will be brown and dead. Within days, they will be crispy skeletons. And if you applied enough solution to saturate the root zone, they will not come back. Now let me address the concerns. People ask, will this kill everything? Will it poison my soil permanently? Will it harm beneficial insects? The answers are specific. Yes, this kills everything it touches. It is not selective. If you pour it on grass, the grass dies. If you pour it on flowers, the flowers die. This is for use on areas where you want nothing to grow. Driveways, gravel paths, fence lines, patio gaps. Not gardens, not lawns. The precision comes from application, not from the chemistry. You control what dies by controlling where you pour. Will it poison soil permanently? No. Salt and vinegar are not persistent. They break down. They wash away. Heavy rain will leach salt deeper into the soil or carry it off entirely. Vinegar degrades into harmless compounds within weeks. The soil chemistry returns to baseline in 1 to 3 months, depending on your climate and how much rain you get. This is not like glyphosate, which binds to soil particles and persists for months or years. This is temporary sterilization, exactly what you want for weed control in non-growing areas. Will it harm insects or animals? No. Once the solution cools, it is inert. A dog can walk on treated pavement an hour later with 0 risk. Bees, butterflies, earthworms, none are harmed unless they are physically present during application and get drenched. The heat kills them, yes. But the chemicals do not. And since you are applying this to barren surfaces, not blooming gardens, the likelihood of harming beneficial insects is minimal. Compare this to Roundup, which has been shown to disrupt gut bacteria in bees, contributing to colony collapse. The contrast is stark. Cost comparison is equally stark. A gallon jug of white vinegar costs $4. A box of rock salt costs $5. That gives you enough material to make 20 gallons of weed killer. 20 gallons. For $9. Each gallon treats roughly 100 square feet of weeds depending on density. So for $9, you can treat 2,000 square feet. A comparable amount of Roundup would cost over $100. You just saved $90. And you did it without exposing yourself or your family to a probable carcinogen. But here is the question. If this works so well and costs so little, why does no one talk about it? Why is every garden video sponsored by chemical companies? Why do extension agents recommend glyphosate? The answer is economic gravity. Herbicide is a $5 billion industry in the United States alone. Companies like Bayer do not make money if you boil water and add salt. They make money when you buy their product repeatedly. So they fund research, they sponsor university departments, they advertise in every gardening magazine. They create the perception that weed control is complex and requires their expertise, and they bury alternatives under an avalanche of marketing. Do you currently use chemical weed killers like Roundup on your property? Drop a comment and be honest. No judgment. Most of us have been conditioned to think it is the only option. But let me take you deeper into why this suppression happened. In the 1970s, Monsanto introduced glyphosate as a revolutionary herbicide. It killed weeds. It was cheaper than manual labor. It seemed like a miracle. Farmers adopted it widely. Homeowners followed. By the 1990s, Roundup was a household name. Monsanto made billions. But even then, there were warnings. Studies showed glyphosate disrupted plant enzymes in ways that could affect animals. Reports emerged of reproductive issues in farm workers. But Monsanto had resources. They funded counter-studies. They lobbied regulators. They marketed aggressively. The narrative became, glyphosate is safe when used as directed. Then, in 2015, the World Health Organization classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. This was not a fringe opinion. This was the WHO. The credibility was undeniable. Lawsuits began. First a trickle, then a flood. Dwayne Johnson, a school groundskeeper, sued Monsanto claiming Roundup gave him terminal cancer. He won. The jury awarded him $289 million, later reduced to $78 million. More cases followed, thousands of them. Bayer, which had acquired Monsanto, faced financial catastrophe. They settled. $11 billion, the largest product liability settlement in history. And yet, Roundup is still sold, because banning it would require admitting it was dangerous all along. It would open governments to liability for allowing it. It would destroy the business model of an entire industry. So it stays, with warnings, with restrictions in some countries, but available. And people keep buying it because they do not know there is an alternative. Or they know intellectually, but do not believe a simple kitchen solution could work as well as a scientifically formulated chemical. This is the power of branding, of institutional trust. We trust labs more than we trust boiling water, even when the labs have been proven wrong in court. If you are finding this valuable and realizing you have been spending money on poison when a dollar solution exists, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like. Help spread information the industry does not want shared. Now, let me give you the step-by-step process for using this weed killer. so there is zero confusion. Start by identifying the target area. Walk your property. Where do you have persistent weeds in non-growing zones? Driveway cracks. Along the foundation. Between patio stones. Gravel paths. Make a mental map. Do not treat areas where you want plants to grow. This is scorched earth. Everything dies. Next, check the weather. You want dry conditions for at least 24 hours after application. Rain will dilute the salt and vinegar before they do their work. A sunny, hot day is ideal. The heat from the sun adds to the thermal kill. Prepare your solution. Fill a large pot with 1 gallon of water. Bring it to a rolling boil on the stove. While it heats, measure 1 cup of coarse salt and 1 cup of white vinegar. Have them ready. When the water boils, add the salt. Stir until most of it dissolves. Some will remain as crystals. That is fine. Remove the pot from heat. Add the vinegar. Stir. The solution is ready. Pour it carefully into a watering can or heat-safe pitcher. Wear gloves. The pot is hot. The liquid is hot. Be cautious. Walk to your first target area. Pour the solution directly onto the weeds. Do not be stingy. You want saturation. Drench the leaves. Drench the base. Let the liquid pool around the roots. The goal is to soak the top few inches of soil where roots live. If you see the solution running off onto areas you do not want to kill, use less volume or pour more slowly. Precision matters. Move methodically. Treat every weed in the area. Do not skip any. Missed weeds will reseed and you will be back in a month. After application, leave the area alone. Do not rinse, do not water. Let nature do its work. Within an hour, you will see wilting. Within a day, the weeds will be brown. Within 3 days, they will be dead and dry. You can leave them in place to decompose or sweep them away. Either works. The roots are dead. They will not resprout. If a few weeks later you see new growth, it is from seeds that were in the soil and germinated after the salt leached. Treat them again. Usually 1 application is enough for the season, but heavily infested areas might need a second pass. One important caution. Do not use this near plants you want to keep. The salt will spread through soil. If you pour this solution 6 inches from a rose bush, the salt can migrate to the rose roots and kill the bush. Keep a buffer zone, at least 2 feet from desirable plants. In tight spaces where weeds grow right next to plants, use boiling water alone. Skip the salt and vinegar. The boiling water will kill the weed without creating lasting soil toxicity. It is less effective long-term, but safer. Another caution. Do not pour this on soil you plan to plant in soon. If you clear weeds from a future garden bed using this method, wait at least 2 months and have heavy rain or irrigate deeply before planting. You need the salt to leach out. Test the soil if you are uncertain. A simple soil test will show if salt levels are safe. Most vegetables tolerate up to 1,000 parts per million of salt. Above that, they struggle. If your test shows high salt, leach the soil with water. Run a sprinkler for an hour, let it drain. Repeat. This flushes the salt deeper or out entirely. Now, let me share results from real-world use. I have a gravel driveway. Weeds erupt through the gravel every spring. Dandelions, crabgrass, plantain. I used to spray Roundup twice a season. Cost about $30. The weeds died, but always came back. 3 years ago, I switched to the boiling water salt vinegar method. I treated the driveway once in early May. The weeds died within 2 days. I did not see regrowth until August. I treated again. That second application lasted through fall. Total cost for the season, about $3 in vinegar and salt. I already had water. The driveway has been virtually weed-free ever since with 2 applications per year. Compare that to 6 applications of Roundup I was doing before. A neighbor asked what I was using. I told her. She was skeptical. She thought it sounded too simple. But her patio was overrun with weeds between the pavers. She tried it. 1 gallon of solution treated her entire patio. The weeds died. They have not returned in significant numbers. She has become a convert. She tells everyone. And every person who switches is 1 less person buying poison. Another case. A friend manages a small commercial property, parking lot, sidewalks, weeds everywhere. He was paying a landscape company $200 a month to spray herbicide. I suggested he try the boiling method. He was hesitant. Liability concerns. What if it does not work and the property looks unkempt? I convinced him to test a small section. He did. It worked. He expanded. Now he has a maintenance worker boil water and treat weeds as they appear. Cost, maybe $20 a month in materials. He saved over $2,000 a year and eliminated chemical exposure for his tenants and employees. These are not isolated success stories. This method works everywhere it has been tried, but it requires a shift in thinking. You have to accept that simple can be effective, that expensive does not mean better, that corporations profit from your ignorance and dependence. Once you accept these truths, the choice becomes obvious. Now, let me address some advanced techniques and variations. The basic formula works, but you can optimize it for specific situations. For extremely tough weeds with deep taproots, like dandelions or dock, increase the salt to 2 cups per gallon. This creates a stronger brine that penetrates deeper. The downside is slower salt breakdown. Use this only where you truly want nothing to grow for months. For annual weeds with shallow roots like crabgrass, the standard formula is overkill. You can use boiling water alone and skip the salt and vinegar. It is faster, cheaper, still effective. The weeds die, and by the time seeds germinate, you can treat again. For large areas like gravel driveways or parking lots, boiling water in a kitchen pot is impractical. You need volume. Use a propane burner and a large pot, the kind used for frying turkeys or brewing beer. You can heat 5 gallons at a time. Treat larger sections in 1 session. This scales the method for bigger jobs. Some people use electric kettles. Boil water in multiple kettles. Pour into a bucket with salt and vinegar. Mix, apply. It is slower than a large pot, but does not require propane. Another variation. Add dish soap. 1 tablespoon of liquid dish soap per gallon. The soap acts as a surfactant. It helps the solution stick to waxy leaves. This is useful for weeds like purslane that have thick, water-repellent surfaces. The soap breaks the surface tension. The vinegar and salt penetrate better. The kill is faster. Use plain soap. Not antibacterial. Not scented. Just basic dish soap. For moss or algae on pavement, the formula works, but vinegar is the key component. Increase vinegar to 2 cups per gallon. The acidity kills moss more effectively than heat or salt. Scrub the area after treatment to remove dead moss. It will leave a stain otherwise. The pavement will look cleaner than it has in years. One question I get often: can I use this in my lawn to spot treat weeds without killing the grass? No. This kills everything. If you pour it on a dandelion in your lawn, you will have a dead circle of grass around the dead dandelion. For selective lawn weed control, you need different methods. Hand pulling. Selective organic herbicides like iron-based products. Or acceptance. A few weeds in a lawn are not a crisis. They are biodiversity. But for non-lawn areas, this solution is unbeatable. Another question. What about perennial weeds like bindweed or Japanese knotweed that regrow from deep roots? This method kills the above-ground growth instantly. but deep roots may survive and re-sprout. For these, you need repeated applications. Every time new growth appears, hit it with boiling salt vinegar. Eventually, the plant exhausts its root reserves. It cannot keep producing new shoots. It dies. This takes patience, maybe 5 or 6 treatments over a season. But it works, and it is still cheaper and safer than glyphosate, which also requires repeated applications for tough perennials. Let me also talk about environmental impact beyond just human health. Glyphosate does not just stay on the weeds you spray. It runs off. It enters storm drains. It contaminates streams and rivers. Studies have found glyphosate in drinking water, in rainwater, in the urine of people who have never directly used it. It is everywhere. And it does not just affect humans. It affects aquatic life, amphibians, fish, insects, the ecosystem as a whole. Glyphosate disrupts the base of the food chain. Algae and plankton are affected. This cascades upward. Boiling water and salt do not do this. Yes, if you dump gallons of salt solution into a stream, you will harm aquatic life. But that is not how this is used. You are applying it to pavement, to soil, in amounts that localize and dilute. The environmental footprint is negligible compared to persistent synthetic chemicals. When you choose this method, you are making a choice that extends beyond your property line. You are reducing the chemical load in your watershed. You are protecting species you will never see, but that depend on clean water. There is also the issue of resistance. Weeds are developing resistance to glyphosate. Overuse has created superweeds: Palmer amaranth, kochia, ragweed. These plants have evolved genetic mutations that allowed them to survive glyphosate exposure. Farmers are now using stronger chemicals, more toxic formulas. The arms race escalates. But weeds cannot evolve resistance to boiling water. They cannot adapt to thermal destruction. Physics does not allow for adaptation the way chemistry does. This method will work 100 years from now exactly as it works today. Glyphosate, on the other hand, is becoming obsolete as resistance spreads. Now, I want to address the propaganda. You will hear people say that homemade weed killers are not as effective as commercial products, that they are old-fashioned, that modern science has improved on them. This is marketing, not truth. The effectiveness of boiling water plus salt plus vinegar is not debatable. It is observable. You can see it work. The claim that it is old-fashioned is irrelevant. Old does not mean bad. Fire is old. It still cooks food better than a microwave in many cases. Wheels are old. We still use them. The age of a method has no bearing on its effectiveness. The claim that modern science has improved on this is particularly insidious. Modern science did not improve weed killing. It commercialized it. It created products that could be patented and sold. Boiling water cannot be patented. Salt cannot be patented. Vinegar cannot be patented. There is no profit in promoting them. So industry-funded research focuses on synthetic chemicals. Universities train students to think in terms of chemical interventions. Extension services recommend products made by sponsors. The entire system is designed to funnel you toward purchasing solutions when free ones exist. This is not conspiracy theory. This is documented fact. Look at funding sources for agricultural research. Look at the revolving door between chemical companies and regulatory agencies. Look at the lawsuits that exposed internal Monsanto documents showing they knew glyphosate was dangerous and suppressed the information. The evidence is public. The corruption is real. And the casualty is your health and your wallet. So what do you do with this information? You make a choice. You can continue buying Roundup or generic glyphosate. You can continue exposing yourself and your environment to a probable carcinogen. You can continue spending money on a product that works less effectively than a home remedy. Or you can boil water, add salt, add vinegar, pour it on weeds, and watch them die, permanently, for $1. The choice seems obvious, but it requires overcoming conditioning. You have been told for decades that effective solutions come from corporations, from labs, from experts. You have been trained to distrust your own capability to solve problems with simple tools. This is learned helplessness. It is profitable for others, but destructive for you. Breaking free starts with small acts. Choosing to boil water instead of buying poison is one such act. It is not just about weeds. It is about reclaiming agency, about realizing that you do not need permission or products to take care of your own property. And when your neighbors ask what you are doing, tell them, show them, give them the formula. Because every person who stops using glyphosate is a person who stops funding the industry that profits from poison. Every gallon of boiling water used is a gallon less of contaminated runoff. This is how change happens. Not through legislation, not through protest, through individual choices that accumulate into collective impact. Before we close, I want you to commit to something. This week, try it. Boil a gallon of water. Add salt and vinegar. Pour it on weeds. Just once. See what happens. Do not take my word for it. Do not take anyone's word for it. Verify it yourself. Because once you see weeds wilt and die from something you made in your kitchen, something shifts. You realize you have been lied to. You realize you have power you did not know you had. And that realization changes everything. Now, I am asking you directly. After watching this, are you going to try the boiling water method, or will you keep buying Roundup out of habit? Leave a comment. Tell me your plan. If you have concerns or questions, share them. Let us have a real conversation about this. And if this video made you angry that you have been wasting money and exposing yourself to cancer risk when a simple solution existed all along, channel that anger into action. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Share it with everyone you know who has weeds. Because this information is suppressed by design. The algorithm does not promote it. Garden centers do not advertise it. Chemical companies actively work against it. The only way it spreads is person to person. You are the distribution network. Use it. The weeds are out there. The boiling water is in your kitchen. The salt is in your pantry. The vinegar is under your sink. You have everything you need right now to take control. To stop being a customer and start being a solver of your own problems. It takes 5 minutes to make the solution, 5 minutes to apply it, and then you are done. No protective gear, no warning labels, no cancer lawsuits 20 years from now. Just dead weeds and $1 spent instead of 15. This is not a small thing. This is a fundamental shift in how you relate to the systems that claim to serve you, but actually extract from you. And it starts with one pot of boiling water. Do it. You will not regret it. And once you do, you will wonder why you ever did it any other way.